we will understand something even cooler. We will bring this chemical to the picture. Fructose 2,6-bisphosphate. Okay, so everything comes from a question. The question is how, I thought about it, how the liver has two opposite jobs, That's really deep, honestly, if you think about it. Sometimes liver thinks that, okay, I need to remove the glucose, right? Other time it produces glucose that through, gluconeogenesis, right? It pushes the glucose inside your blood and maintains the blood sugar when you're sleeping, when you're fasting, right? But my question is, can the liver do these two different things together simultaneously? And turns out it cannot, right? It would be like earning money and spending it at the same time. That's like useless, right? Why would you want to spend money and make money? You would just want to spend it, or maybe just earn it. So that's that's cool, right? Now, glycolysis, right? Just let me introduce these things. Glycolysis. What is glycolysis? Glycolysis is a process in which we take glucose, we produce ATP, pyruvate, and NADH. That's the process right there. Glycolysis is a process when we break down glucose and we produce 4 ATP, NADH, 2 H2O, and 2 molecules of pyruvate. What is pyruvate? Pyruvate is a 3-carbon molecule. That is a pyruvate, simply. Okay. That is glycolysis in simple terms, right? What is gluconeogenesis? Exactly opposite. But the important thing is we are not going in an opposite direction. For example, glycolysis is glycolysis is from point A to point B. This is glycolysis, break down the glucose. Glyconeogenesis is not point B to point A. It's actually point B to point D, and then point E, and then point A. Actually, like that. It's not opposite. But theoretically, in simpler terms, I can say it's opposite. When we use pyruvate to produce glucose, okay? Main purpose is to maintain that blood sugar levels, okay? So the question here is that what happens if both pathways are active together, right? Imagine glucose turning into pyruvate, pyruvate turning into glucose, glucose turning into pyruvate, pyruvate turning into glucose, again and again and again, like a cycle, right? What would happen? That's a cool thing. I think this is like useless thing to think even, but I think we are just wasting a lot of ATP because every cycle needs ATP. And surprisingly, this thing is called futile cycle. Futile means useless cycle. So, how do we avoid that? How do we avoid this futile cycle? Turns out we need a switch to avoid a futile cycle, right? Now, what that switch is, that's the mystery. So, liver needs a switch, right? How can one hormone rapidly switch the liver from glycolysis on to gluconeogenesis on, or turn on and off? Liver can just switch, right? How would you do that? So, turns out that fructose 2,6-bisphosphate, this is the switch. This right there, fructose 2,6-bisphosphate. Now, the first confusion comes from, what about the name? The fructose 1,6-bisphosphate and fructose 2,6-bisphosphate are not same molecule. Fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is a glycolytic intermediate made by PFK1, right there. Right? It interacts with fructose 6-phosphate, and in return we get fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. That's different than fructose 2,6-bisphosphate. This is completely different. That's number one thing, right? This fructose 2,6-bisphosphate is different. It is a regulatory molecule. It is not burned for energy. We do not catalyze it. We do not burn it. It simply tells the enzymes or the liver what to do. Now, what does exactly F26BP does, right? There are two effects. It does two things. First thing, it can actually activate, positively influence PFK1. Second thing is that it can inhibit, it can stop what? It can inhibit fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Which one? This one. So turns out that fructose 2,6-bisphosphate can stop fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. This guy right there. And once you stop this, you will decrease what? You will decrease gluconeogenesis. Now, question is, why not direct effect? Why don't it directly inhibit? Why do you want to negatively stop two different things and then have same effect? Why both? Because liver wants one pathway active. That's why. Okay, so F26BP, this F26BP, it has two hands, right? When it raises one hand, it says glycolysis, go, that is PFK positively influenced. But when it raises another hand, it says gluconeogenesis, stop it. So it can stop gluconeogenesis or start glycolysis, right? Now, you must be thinking, okay, you have been saying about fructose 2,6 phosphate. Where does it even come from, by the way, right? I mean, you told me fructose 1,6 bisphosphate is not related to this guy. Where does this come from? You'll be so much surprised. Drum rolls. It comes from a different enzyme that is called PFK2. Yeah, some PFK number 2. PFK number 1 produces fructose 1,6. PFK number 2 produces fructose 2,6, right? So systemic, so simple. Amazing. Now, who eats fructose 2,6 bisphosphate? Well, there is another chemical. His name is fructose FBPase. You see this ASE 2. Now this ASE actually removes the whole thing. It eats up this whole reaction. So this enzyme can actually go to fructose 2,6 phosphate, right, and remove it, right? It can destroy it. Just destroy it right there. That's cool, right? I think it's very cool. Okay. So once it destroys it, what do we get, by the way? We get what? We get fructose 6 phosphate. It just removes that this phosphate from the second position of carbon. What do we get? Actually, cool thing to tell you. Fructose, just simply fructose 6 phosphate. Simply, that's it. That's what we get if this enzyme FBPase2 acts upon fructose 2,6 bisphosphate. Okay, so that's the cool thing right there. Okay, so PFK2 builds it, FBPase2 destroys it, F6BP is the result when it's getting destroyed, right? But now the question is, does the liver have two separate proteins then? No. Turns out that PFK2 and FBPase2 are actually two different functional domains of the same protein. That is insane. They are actually just two different domains of same protein. All right. FBPase2 and Mr. PFK2 are same protein, right? That's cool as hell. That is so cool. I think that's so cool. It's like an engineer. I think. So they are just one protein. Just let me write it somewhere. I don't know. So this is one guy. These are just two hands, and this is the head. This is the head of this guy. That's so cool, right? I think that's so cool. It turns out that they are just same people. I want to make him badass. Yeah. Let's make him Spider-Man. Wait. Yeah, he's Spider-Man, if you don't know. This protein is Spider-Man. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Do you know that? So, we have this. So this is the same guy. And these are his hands right there. So, we have this. Same protein, two different domains, FBPase2 and PFK2. One can destroy, one can build it, right? But why would the liver do that, right? because liver can switch rapidly, that's why. So that liver can think rapidly, right? It's a simple change, but it's amazing how it is. It's incredibly efficient, right? So who decides which side is active, by the way? How the Spider-Man, how this protein knows that which side to turn on, which hand to use, right? It's a good question, no? I mean, I think it's a great question. How would you know that? The answer is hormones, insulin and glucagon. So after a meal, you just had a meal, blood sugar rises, pancreatic beta cells are like, okay, let the glucose come inside. So glucokinase is like, okay, I'll sense the glucose, lets the glucose, traps the glucose, everything blah, 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 happens, insulin rise up. Now, what does insulin tells? Insulin tells that food is available. Now, should the glucose make glucose? No, sorry. Should the liver make glucose now? No, we have already, the person just ate. For what you want to keep producing glucose, right? So, should I use the glucose? Yes. So, what does the insulin do? Insulin activates PFK2, right? What happens? Next, if PFK2 is positive, if PFK2 is okay, so PFK increases F2B6BP, right? This enzyme, this one, right? So this one, right? And PFK2, by the way, okay? So insulin here, insulin tells PFK2 to increase the amount of fructose 2,6-bisphosphate, and then once we have F26BP, this PFK1 is up, and then we have glycolysis. That's how exactly this thing works. This is amazing, I think. It is amazing. At the same time, we have this F26BP, right? And it actually inhibits, like stops what? This F26BP, right there, this enzyme, actually not negatively, it just inhibits what? It inhibits FBPase, this one. So it goes and tells, hey, it has negative feedback. Can you keep this arm away from me? So once once it goes, so negative feedback, so FBPase inhibited, right? And then just simply there's two effects, right? What about fasting? When you're fasting, glucagon is up, because fasting is the enzyme when glucose is gone, so glucagon is high, right? No insulin also leads to same thing, glucagon. So once glucagon is rising, right? Now the question is, should the liver consume glucose? Absolutely not, because the brain needs it, right? So what does the glucagon do? Glucagon activates something which is called as FBBPase, this hand of the enzyme. So glucagon is the lover of FBPase2. So glucagon activates FBPase2. Now what happens is that FBPase2 activates, where is my marker? Yeah. So glucagon activates FBPase2. FBPase2 inhibits fructose 2,6-bisphosphate. Once fructose 2,6-bisphosphate is inhibited, lowers the value of it. Once this is low, PFK loses the activation. Once PFK loses the activation, the glycolysis is going to go down. Now, at the same time, when we have less fructose 2,6-bisphosphate, FBPase1 is no longer inhibited, gluconeogenesis increases, and that's how it works. Now, this is amazing, right? This is amazing. Without F26BP, without this enzyme, everything would fall, right? The liver would have to regulate PFK1, right? And FBPase1, right? Differently, independently, which is a big problem, right? Now imagine you have a patient, right? And he just had a big meal. Hormone goes up, insulin, PFK2 site increases, fructose 2,6-bisphosphate increases, glycolysis increases because he just had a big meal. Great, amazing. 3 days later, he has been fasting. Which hormone goes up? Glucagon goes up. What's gonna increase? FBPase is gonna eat and increase this amount of fructose 2,6-bisphosphate, right? Sorry, not increase, decrease. It's gonna inhibit, right? So activates, stops fructose 2,6-bisphosphate, goes down, less glycolysis, right? So PFK goes down. What's gonna happen? We're gonna have more gluconeogenesis, right, to maintain that sugar. And this is essentially the whole model of how the glucose decides, how liver decides, should I go for glycolysis, or should I go for gluconeogenesis? That's how essentially the switch depends. So imagine, just imagine this left hand, this bad hand never existed. There will be no one to stop this. That'll be a big problem, right? And imagine PFK2 never existed. If PFK2 never existed, you will have no activation of fructose 2,6 bisphosphate. Once you don't have this activation, you will not be able to tell the liver that, hey, start glycolysis. This person just ate a big fatty meal. How would you know that? How would you tell that? No, it's impossible, right? So that's how the whole thing works, right? Now F26BP, it has nothing to do with glycolysis. Okay, PFK1 makes fructose 1,6, not 2,6. PFK2 makes fructose 2,6. Okay, what about other thing? Insulin stimulates gluconeogenesis. Do you think it's right? It's not. Insulin stimulates Mr. Glycolysis, right? So that's the thing. Okay, simply that's the thing. That's unifying concept. That's the thing. That's the whole concept. How liver decides to switch from glycolysis to gluconeogenesis. This is how.